Peter, thank you for joining us. Maybe if we could just start with, not everyone's going to know TTP so well. If you could just start by telling us some of the key moments in your journey and how you've come to be where you are.
Well, we started the company in 1987. We committed to starting in September 87, just before the Black Monday crash of 87, still the worst on record. So the funding we had in place when we started evaporated. We had to go cap in hand to the bank, sacrifice our salary, and through that we were able to, with our team and business plan, persuade the bank to give us personal loans, which provided the startup capital.
And you call yourselves a partnership. How does that translate into a different model with your clients?
Well, we chose the name partnership despite the fact we actually are a limited company, public limited company, because to reflect the relationship not just amongst the people in the company, but also our relationship with the clients. Our business is carrying out research and development, product development and technology development on a contract basis for our customers. And the usual model, if there's a problem, that means more money and more cost, and actually means that your interests aren't actually aligned with the clients. We saw the opportunity for a new model in which we aligned our interests with the clients by investing in intellectual property and making that a part of what we deliver, so that when they're successful, we're successful.
TTP's got quite a unique ownership and governance model. Could you explain how that works?
The company is owned and controlled by the staff. Staff shareholding, staff own the shares in the company, and previous staff can keep their shares when they leave, but when they leave, they lose the vote. So that the staff share on an annual basis in the success of the company. We pay at least 30% of the profits out as dividends, and they benefit even when they left from the contributions that they made.
And how important is that model to the success of TTP and the culture you've created?
Well, it certainly underpins the culture, the aspect of where we're all in it together and at one big team. From time to time, bits of the business are, if you like, acting as cash cows and generating cash. Other bits of the business are spending that, investing in high-risk new technologies. But everybody in the business can recognise that the results of that will be shared by all the members of the business and not just the particularly successful parts of the business.
Employee ownership perhaps sometimes makes it harder to raise capital. Has that ever constrained your ability to grow, being employee-owned to such an extent?
Well, I can't say that, I can't really identify anything that we didn't do or couldn't do because of that. But, well, there are all sorts of obstacles to raising capital. And I think one of the things it has done in quite a beneficial way has driven us to look at other models for bringing income and investment into the things that we do. It's encouraged us to maintain our own reserves to invest for the future.
And what would you say that in the core is the key ingredient of your success over the last few decades?
Having great people and giving them the freedom to excel. That's very much the nature of the culture. It's encapsulated in the ownership, and it's that ownership and self-determination which has been really important for the success of the business.
How do you try and create culture when it's such an intangible and soft thing?
Well, it is absolutely critical. In all aspects. I mean, retaining excellent staff, making it a great place for them to work, innovating, creating new ideas and taking them to fruition, managing risk and so on. All these are influenced completely by the culture. And at one level we have some formal things. For example, we create our own leadership course. And it's not a management course because the culture is one of management is something we don't want a lot of. It needs to be intuitive, but leadership is very important. But really, the most important thing is what happens on a day-to-day basis. So what people see happening and what they learn to do instinctively and intuitively.
And you must have lived through quite a few recessions over the life of TTP, and that must have forced some pretty tough decisions in that balance of stakeholders and the short and long term. How have you struck those balances, and are there any particular examples when you've had to make a quite difficult decision?
The culture and the structure actually helps us to withstand recessions. In fact, we've done very well in this last recession. We've had some of our best years ever, and a lot of benefits came out of starting in a recession actually, and some of that is because we have control of our destiny, and we recognise that and understand that, and we use that. So we don't have self-fulfilling prophecies of doom and disaster. But in the recession that happened in the early 2000s, that was when the technology bubble burst, and anybody in technology felt the pain from that, the cold winds. And we had a choice to make, because to maintain profits, we would need to cut costs quite sharply, which is often the instinct in companies. We didn't. So we recognised the value of the family silver, which is the assets in the people, and we bore the costs of that and the losses of that, so as to keep the team alive and reap the benefits when things return back to some form of normality.
Business often involves risks to have the growth, the opportunities, and especially the technology space. How do you try and manage that risk?
You often frequently hear, without risk there's not reward, and it's very dangerous to flip that and therefore go looking for reckless opportunities. And there's also an impression that entrepreneurs are risk takers. We are a fundamentally entrepreneurial organisation and culture, but actually one of the truths about entrepreneurs is that they take very managed risks, and they're very good at managing the downside. So that's an aspect of what we do. So we may be risking the opportunity cost or whatever. So if things don't go well, then we don't get the upside. But we're good at managing the downside. But then the other aspect is many aspects of the culture, which is a lack of fear of failure, which is empowerment, which is respect for expertise, so that when things emerge, they're spotted and they're dealt with well. And you'll find that where there is a true lack of fear of failure and a no-blame culture, then people won't fail, or they fail less often.
And maybe taking a step back, in terms of if you can wave a magic wand and change anything about the UK corporate landscape or business in general, what would you change if you had that power? I
think business would be more effective and comfortable if more companies follow the tomorrow's company approach. But seriously, what I've seen over the years is companies trying to contract out of risk, motivate companies by fear, by placing contracts on us that where we go out of business if something goes wrong, and that's all part of the diminishing role of relationships and increasing role of transactions and contracts and so on. And I think that this trying to avoid failure, trying to avoid risk, trying to avoid responsibility isn't helpful, and I think it would be useful to see changes in that.
And lastly, how has working with tomorrow's company helped you?
Management books, business schools, Financial Times, they focus on listed companies and large multinationals and corporates and so on. So actually you see this conventional wisdom and it doesn't match what's happening in your own company. And at times you feel what you're doing is wrong. It works, but it's wrong. So through tomorrow's company, you actually learn that there is a different approach, and there are some great companies that pursue that approach. So at one level, it's giving you confidence and reassurance in the approach that you're taking, and another level, it's giving you an insight into how to do that better and learn from other companies and what they're doing and such like. And then I think, thirdly, there's the point about UK PLC or whatever. If you believe this is a good way of operating, and it's good for business and it's good for the community, then supporting the efforts of Tomorrow's Company to make change, and it has made change to corporate governance codes, to company law and so on, then you can only believe that's a good thing for the staff and for the company and for their children and for the country.
Thank you. And Peter, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure.